people that you would know.
I attended.
You attended, and it was amazing because we had a coalition for one voice, and we said, okay, let's just do a big, huge program in New York City so that people can really connect and not just listening to speakers, but really have people break up into small groups and different circles and exchange and really create that dynamic and that dynamic energy between people. And I was one of the participants. I had to do a presentation at the end. And prior to the program, I was in the green room. And actually, Alan was the guardian of the green room. And he said, oh, do you want to say hi to Deepak? Because he knew I knew Deepak. And I said, yes, sure. Because I was in another end of the green room. And so I went out and I said hello. And he was asking, well, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, I'm doing this, this, and this. And I had this idea to bring together individuals, organizations, and networks so that we can support the shift in consciousness. And he said, oh, that sounds great. Let's do it together. So that was a huge gift. That was another big yes. The two greatest yeses were Deborah and Deepak. And he said, do it at the Chopra Center in New York. At that time, he had a center in New York at the Dream Hotel. And we did our first meeting there. And it was just a half-a-day meeting, and a lot of friends and colleagues came. So there was really that sense of, yes, we want to meet and we do want to figure this out, how we can have a network of people that have the same mission, we're going in the same direction, and how can we come together with our expertise, collective missions, and skills, and really be a greater force for transformation. And so that was amazing. And we did another one in New York, and then we did a third one at the Chopra Center in California. And that was a lot of the people in the consciousness movement, like Greg Braden and Michael Beckwith, Jean Houston, Lynn McTaggart, a lot of people coming together. And we saw again that people had this sense that we want to do something, but we don't know what it is. So Bruce Lipton actually inspired us to create a collective call to conscious evolution. And we have already probably almost 50,000 people that signed on to that. That's been going for more than 13 years. And people just kept wanting to meet. So that's pretty much how the Evolutionary Leaders Circle began. And it started taking different forms, and more people would be nominated into the collective. And now we have almost 20 synergy circles on vast topics, which I'm sure we'll be talking about soon. And it's really taking a beautiful form. So that's basically how it started, and we'll see how it's how evolution wants it to continue. But we are thinking more, how can we reach the greater public in a deeper way, like World Unity Week is doing, through partnerships and more synergy circles, doing local synergy circles. And so we're kind of feeling our way through, but basically it's all about bringing people together to be a greater force for this shift in consciousness.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible, Diane. What year was that when you approached Deepak and he said, yes, let's do it at the Chopra Center?
That was 2006 at the, I think it was October 2006. And it was actually before Source of Synergy was even officially a 501c3. And I remember we had our first meeting. Yeah, that was December 2006, the first meeting. But I already submitted the paperwork, and I remember putting the Source of Synergy Foundation on my chair, feeling a little bit like, okay, we're not official yet, but I'm just gonna assume that this is gonna manifest into form. So that was the very kind of first meeting that we had.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, and the connections that have been created are just beyond measure since that moment. It's extraordinary. It's an absolutely incredible thing, and more people should know about the astounding work of the evolutionary leaders. So Deborah, tell us about your origin story with the evolutionary leaders in EL. So you're on the board of Source of Synergy. You're working with Source of Synergy. Diane's out there talking to Deepak and Bruce Lipton and others. What was your kind of early days experience of this emerging idea of the evolutionary leaders?
Well, for me, the aha moment was in 2008. So I had been helping Diane with these 2 meetings that we had organized in New York at Deepak's Center. And most of the people who came to that were people we knew from the United Nations, and they were heads of organizations and representatives of those NGOs to the United Nations. So that was very much our community. But we were sitting in a small meeting room in that little space at the Dream Hotel. Nice that it was the Dream Hotel, right? To have this dream. And we were debriefing, and we were talking about how well the meeting had gone and what we wanted to do next. And we started talking about the possibility of doing the next meeting in California at Deepak's Center there. And that was, to me, when we really started visioning about bringing together the leaders of the movement of awakening consciousness that was so clearly happening on the planet, and yet didn't have any one leader, didn't have a name, didn't even have any common language, really. And we thought, so many of the people who are our inspirations for that, who are the authors and the scientists and the teachers who were giving workshops, etc., they were in California. California is, definitely a hotbed of transformation of consciousness, and at that time particularly was a real leader itself as a place. So as we began to vision into the meeting out there, we thought, well, who could we bring together in one room that are these leaders and are teaching so many people and helping to inspire all of us? They know, a lot of them know each other because they give conferences together, but when are they ever invited just to be together, to share one another's visions, learn from one another, become closer friends and community, and perhaps together in synergy build more of a common vision, more of a common language, and more of a way that people could relate as a community. And so for me, that was really key. And we put together a kind of a dream list of who we would like to invite. And we asked Deepak whom he would like to invite. And we kept to a small number, but these were people that were quite extraordinary in their own right. And let me say, a lot of those people were not used to doing things together because they had carved out an individual path that was at the leading edge of this evolution. So it was quite unique to bring them together. And also we had a third partner that was based in California, the Association for Global New Thought. And that brought a lot of deeply spiritual people into the mix as well. And so that was the meeting at which Bruce made this famous announcement. He said, our founding fathers had a declaration. We need a document that says what we're about. And that was the call to conscious evolution. And that really got us working in synergy, because writing a document together, as you probably know, is not an easy thing. But that's what calls forth people's vision and people's creativity. And so at the beginning, there were 35 evolutionary leaders, and now there are 240.
Well, it's an amazing evolutionary tale. And what's it been like, Diane, for you these last 15 years of watching your, seed of an idea and the conversations that happened in 2006 become this reality of these amazing global leaders coming together, not always perhaps exactly as you may have hoped or kind of wanted to see how the synergy, started to catch fire. But what What's the journey been like for you to watch this baby grow up and the incredible results? I mean, I can give testimony about my own experience with the evolutionary leaders, and I will. But just in terms of you as the visionary, watching this thing become real and then take wings around the world, how's that experience been for you, Diane?
Well, I think it's been a progression because it's like Deborah said in the beginning, I think it was all new on some levels. And, you put a group of people, especially a group of renowned leaders together that are used to maybe doing individual programs, but not necessarily working together as a collective. So that was very interesting to see because I think there was some period of time when we really had to work on, okay, how can we show up in our most authentic selves? What does that look like? Taking down the maybe preconceived mask that maybe we think we have to show, in a certain way, show up in a certain way, and really work on that authenticity. And it was just a matter of like having very deep dialogues with each other, highlighting people's expertise, wisdom, skills, talents, really seeing each other, what we have to offer each other. Even doing a talent show to see hidden talents of people like Gary Zukav is an amazing comedian. You wouldn't know that. And Deborah is an amazing singer. So really starting to see each other in our full essence, as a collective. So not just making the assumption, okay, I hear this person's talk and, this is who they are, but really seeing the full person. So that was a really beautiful blossoming of the group, because I think the more that people felt like, oh, I could just be myself. I don't have to be this persona. I mean, that's part of me, of course, and I offer that to the world, and that's really essential, but I have so many other pieces of who I am. So I think once people felt like safe to be in that space with others, then I think there was even more of a blossoming of the collective, which was really beautiful to see. And it's nice because every year when we have new people come into the group, I think they feel that energy. Like we recently had a 3-day advance online. And I felt like the new people, and I know some of them mentioned to me, that they really appreciated being able to drop into this field where there was already a sense of community and support. And I think that could happen in any community. I think, people have, young people join clubs, and once you get to know each other, I think you form this field. Maybe you're in a band, and then you start feeling this coherence among each other. And I think that's really the essential essence that we need in the world to cohere individually, personally, collectively, cosmically. And once we feel that coherence, then we're in a certain space where I think only peace and greater understanding can live. So I think that's a big part of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, is to try to get to that space and then see if we could model that in different areas of the world and through synergy circles and different other means. So
I think that's also a component of maybe the essential component of evolutionary leadership, is that it isn't anymore about the one figure that everyone follows. It's about, in fact, one of our evolutionary leaders gave us an interesting presentation about that at one of our retreats, and that was Nipun Mehta, who has established charity focus and service space and beautiful initiatives. And he was talking about the change of paradigm from the one to many to the many to many, which is evidenced in our new media, where we speak to one another equally, rather than the older media like radio or television, when there's one person talking to everyone, or even a pulpit is like that, right? Or a classroom. And now we are learning from one another, and we are appreciating one another's contributions so that what we bring forth is what we weave together from our various gifts. Barbara Marx Hubbard, who was one of our, not only one of our original evolutionary leaders, but a real inspiration in our theme of serving conscious evolution. She would call it joining genius, right? So that everybody has a genius, but our talents and skills are different. And that's why we're more powerful together, which goes back to what Diane and I were talking about and how we work together, where we have some skills that are similar and we have some skills that are quite different. And so we balance one another in different ways. And we do have that creative edge that we have to keep polishing to bring forth the best in each of us. And that serves the whole.
You also know that change is not going to come from politics as usual. They say, like, when the people lead, the leaders follow. And I think that's what's happening in terms of evolution now. And you see that with all the movements going on all over the world. So people are really leading this evolution. And we always have, like, we always think, should we change our name from evolutionary leaders to evolutionary partners? It's always a conversation every year we have. But really, leadership is about coming together. We're a collective leadership. You know, anybody that makes a decision to make life or circumstances better is a leader.
Yeah, that was another big aha for me at one of our retreats. After we had, maybe it was around our third or fourth retreat. We were still meeting in California. We've met in some very varied places now, but we keep coming back to Northern California where there are so many evolutionary leaders. But anyway, I was sitting in the room and I was probably taking notes or something like that. And I had always thought of myself as a servant to the project, to the cause, to the whole. And I was a worker bee. I've always been a worker bee. And Diane kept saying, no, you're a leader too, just like Deepak Chopra and Greg Braden and Jean Houston, all of the wonderful people that were our heroes. She said, no, you're part of this too. I'm like, no, my name is on the list because I do this work and I'm helping to bring forth their wisdom. She's like, no, you're not getting it. And I was sitting in the room doing some task, and I suddenly had this image of the evolution of consciousness as a tremendous wave coming up toward the shore. And that everyone who was on the edge of the foam of that wave coming to the beach was leading this evolution. That it wasn't about a few brilliant selected people. It was about everyone who had dedicated themselves to the advancement of human consciousness. And that there were millions of people leading the evolution out there. And that we were just beginning to put a name to that and see it happening, emerging all over the world. And so that once I got that, then I was able to serve this project, I think, on a different level.
That's really beautiful, Deborah. That insight. I love how, this story again from those two foundational yeses, and just look at the waves, as you say in your vision, Deborah, the waves of outcomes and connections and transformations that have been a result. Just one quick comment from the chat. Monica and Dave Willard say, you are both such fabulous examples of outstanding leadership. And I want to give my experience because in the emergence of Unity Earth around 2016, was when I met you, Deborah Moldow, for the first time at the launch of the Road to 2020 in New York. It was such an incredible period of time, but I attended my first, was fortunate enough to be brought in by Dr. Kurt Johnson, and we should get a mention of Kurt. I'm sure we'll be talking about Kurt again in this next little bit. But brought in, I had my first Evolutionary Leaders retreat at the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors in 2017. It was actually midsummer. It was around now. And Alex and Alison Gray. And, you know, from that experience, Kristen was talking about it on the concert last night, that from that experience, Kristen Hoffman came to Ethiopia, Jeff Vanderkloot came to the Return to Country of Mungo Man. All these extraordinary things happened as a result. And this global series of events, which we had called the Road to 2020, which built up in sacred sites all around the world. The evolutionary leaders and the network of the evolutionary leaders and the individuals that I got to meet through that personally and as Unity Earth was, you know, kind of being born, was foundational. So it's played an enormous role. Deborah Moldow, you've played an incredibly creative, original, visionary role in Unity Earth, as has Kurt Johnson, as has Jeff, as has Kristen, and so many others who we met after Kurt had then, you know, opened the doorway for me to come into the Evolutionary Leaders Circle. So just one individual, just one organization, but a huge, really tremendously important, powerful field of connection and creation that has been created by you two and everyone else who's been stewarding this beautiful, beautiful work. It is really amazing. And you know, again, more people should know the history, the story. The book that you published recently, Our Moment of Choice, with all those different authors. I think there's 50 or close to 50 different authors of that book. You'll correct me on the actual number, but so many amazing things have taken place, and we want to switch into the future, Diane. You know, I'm particularly interested in well, both of you have got a history at the United Nations. Both of you have got a history of working with the UN and working with the what is in terms of our you know, planetary governance for what better or worse. And I'm interested to know about your view on whether or not we need a hybrid approach of continuing to evolve what is while we're bringing through what's new and fresh, or you know, there are some people who think it's one or the other. Be interested to hear any thoughts you have about that. But let's talk Dan about the emergence of the synergy circles, because right now the synergy circles are on fire. There is so much activity. Where we have our Unity and Peace Synergy Circle of the Evolutionary Leaders, which is hosting a conversation later today. In fact, at 8:30 tonight, about the Peace Week coming up in September. But there are many different synergy circles. Tell us a little bit, Diane, about the emergence of them, what they are and how they work. And some of them, quite a number of them, are open, meaning that anybody can come and join in.
Well, Deborah's going to have to join me in this one because there's many. Like I said earlier, there's 20. They pretty much emerged because we always had open space, but we said, what's maybe the synergistic version of open space? So in Colorado, and Ben, you were present at our advance in Colorado, we started experimenting with synergy circles. And basically it was pretty much anybody that was interested in a topic could put that out and find others that wish to work with them on that topic and figure out how to bring that issue forward. And we also have local synergy circles because we find that it's really important for people to meet in person locally. So we have some in Santa Barbara, New York, Colorado, we have a bunch of them. And I think the synergy circle, because I'd like to bring it out to also the people that are listening. And that's something that I believe that anybody could start. You just, you know, it's pretty much, okay, I'm interested in working on children's issues. So who else in my, you know, in my life or people in my community might be interested in that topic? And how do we find each other, get together, come together, figure out what our agenda is going to be, you know, how we want to impact that particular topic, and work together on a regular basis. And again, like we were saying earlier, it's that energy that comes out of this synergy that makes, you know, whatever project it is so much greater than if like I would do it myself or somebody else would do it themselves, because you have others, you have different ideas, and they bring their expertise and their skills. So I don't know if you want us to mention what the synergy circles are, but
before you go there, I want to
Yeah.
back it up a little bit, because synergy circles were part of your original download. So the idea was that the Source of Synergy Foundation would be an educational organization that would create retreats and journeys that would bring people together in synergy. And one of Diane's original ideas was to establish synergy circles. And I don't think that she had a vision of how this was going to unfold, but the kernel of that was in the original 501c3 paperwork of the vision of, you have to put what the purpose of your organization is in order to obtain that nonprofit status in the United States. And so as the Evolutionary Leaders Circle began to evolve itself and to grow, people in the beginning were always saying, what can we do together? And this was very challenging for us because, as Diane said, people had their own path and their own ideas of what they wanted to do. And we struggled with that for a while because it was clear that the group had potential that wasn't being realized. So it was only a few years ago when we went, wait, maybe what we need is these various action groups. And Ben, you were involved, I believe, in one of the very first synergy circles, which was Conscious Business Synergy Circle that came out of a different meeting that we had in Crestone, Colorado, where quite a number of evolutionary leaders were present. And now we have, I think we're just on the verge of having 20 synergy circles, and they are not only they're coming together, but they're coming together around such deep, important topics. There's one on the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. There's one on contact with other intelligences. There are two on the holo movement, on the idea that something is emerging that's bigger than all of us. And they're taking different approaches. One is on the vision, one is on the technical, how do we create an online presence that is an opportunity to see online what's happening, to map this enormous movement that is not quite visible yet to people. So the synergy circles are a very exciting way to Kurt calls them the action arm of the evolutionary leaders. And we're so grateful to Kurt Johnson because Kurt has taken this
Absolutely.
on. He was one of the people who took on the book. So I do want to back up to the book just a little bit that you mentioned, Ben. It's called Our Moment of Choice, Evolutionary Visions and Hope for the Future. And it contains writing by 43 members of the evolutionary leaders, including many of our best known, best loved evolutionary leaders. I know when Becky Suzik, who is making such wonderful contributions to World Unity Week, when she saw the book, she said, oh my, that's my entire bookshelf in one book. So I do want to encourage people to go to ourmomentofchoice.com and take a look at the book. There's a lot of beautiful visions in the book. And Kurt and I served as co-editors along with the amazing Bob Atkinson, who is also part of Unity Earth and very much involved in these 99 days of peace. And he really stewarded the project in a wonderful servant leadership, humble way that got it done. And that is truly the spirit. And that's something I love about the book, is that it says who we are. You know, this is the Source of Synergy Foundation's first book. And it is truly a work of synergy. So very appropriate venture into another medium. And that's, I think, what we all have to do is get out into different media and really empower this movement, because the book's main message is that everyone has a part to play.
Mm. Wow, it's so inspiring. What an incredible journey of creation and co-creation and friendship. It's just lovely to be with the two of you. Before we finish this discussion, we'd love to hear from both of you just visions for the future. I know there was a question from Julie Krull asking, how has your vision evolved from when it started to when it is now? I love that the original vision already had the codes for these synergy circles in them as well. But Diane, what's the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 15 years? I mean, that's a long time these days in particular. Who knows what's around the corner, right? Ever since 2020 has landed. But what fires you up now? What you had this incredible career of giving birth to these visions and finding these co-creative partners and serving the emergence of synergy and the Source of Synergy Foundation. What do you see? What's next for you? What's your vision for the future?
Well, thank you, Ben. Well, I think it's really interesting. The original vision of the Source of Synergy Foundation was to bring individuals, organizations, and networks together to support the shift in consciousness. And for the first 15 years, we were really working with the individual. And now we're moving into the partnerships, organizations, and networks. So we're sort of seeing the fulfillment of the initial vision 15 years later. So that's really exciting to see that direction. And personally, what fires me up is supporting children. I think it's really important to empower, I don't even know if that's the right word, but really listening to children, helping them to understand who they really are as souls, having an education system where children teach each other. I think that's really key, drawing out their strengths and their wisdom as well. And we don't see so much of that. In certain schools we do, like Montessori schools, but not enough in mainstream schools. So I'm working on some children's books now to support them in that level. And it's not just for children, it will be interactive with adults, their favorite, member of their family that could work with them and they can have an experience together. And also I'm quite active in the Contact and Conscious Evolution Synergy Circle. And I really feel like partnering with other intelligences is really key. And Tesla said the day, and I hope I get this quote right, but the day we study non-physical phenomenon, we will make more progress in 1 decade than all the centuries combined. And I do believe that that's true. Wow. So I think we really have to tap into these innate abilities that we have to even reverse climate change, something like that. And also using our inner technology, like we're looking for technology to solve climate change, but there's so many inner technologies that we have that I think we need to tap into. And some of our evolutionary leaders, like Lynn McTaggart, working with the intention experiments and Howard Martin's Heart Math Institute. And so working with heart-brain coherence and how that can make a difference, and really understanding who we are as human beings, I think is really key to our next level of evolution. And I do see that the Source of Synergy Foundation is incorporating more of that. When we were at Finhorn Foundation, we had a program on co-creating with the intelligence of nature, and people had some amazing experiences while we were there. So really exploring some of that aspect as well. So the partnership is really important, but also partnership with other phenomenon and intelligences.
Wow, that's magnificent. Thank you, Diane. Very exciting. I love the children's books as well. Good luck with that. That sounds really wonderful. And how about you, Reverend Deborah Moldow? What's the future? What do you see? What's your vision over this next period of time?
In the immediate future, it's about the Evolutionary Leaders Circle reaching out more into the world and being more inclusive. As we mentioned, we were quite small in the beginning, and we've been bringing in more and more evolutionary leaders. And as we do that, we don't have as high a percentage anymore of people who are well known, but we have a much higher percentage of people who are out there doing the work in many different domains. And so it's been very exciting to bring in all of this creative energy, people who really are out there making a difference, and expanding the vision for what it means to be a human being living on this planet right now, in this moment of choice, when we are facing planetary scale emergency. Climate change is not going to slow down. We are going to have to face this as one human family. And so far, our systems they're not serving us anymore. They're all at the end of their paradigm. All of the systems that brought us to where we are today, with many of our modern conveniences, our expanded lifespan, and our ability to communicate like this. This is extraordinary, isn't it? To be able to be in one another's living rooms in 3 different parts of the world as we are right now. And everyone who's joining us could be anywhere. It's extraordinary. We've come a long way. But right now, we are being called to something that's never happened before. If a civilization was on the verge of collapse, it could collapse locally. The people could go somewhere else. We don't have it. We don't have, as they say, there's no planet B. So we are all literally in this together. And as we create these groups, whether it's small like a synergy circle, or whether it's a big expanding community like Unity Earth, for instance, that is such an open invitation for everyone to join. We need all of these groups and networks to come together in common purpose, to be able to not drop our individual agendas, but add to that something that is greater. So the evolutionary leaders, in addition to bringing in more individuals, is also envisioning an evolutionary partnerships circle that would be a way to reach out to organizations and groups and conscious businesses that are aligned with us. And none of this, even the Evolutionary Leaders Circle itself, we're not saying we're the evolutionary leaders and you're not. No, it's we are a group among many, many groups in this emerging consciousness. And that's what we need to do. We don't seem to be able yet to link up as a planet. Dwayne Elgin talks about having an earth voice. So the planet itself or herself can actually speak to us. And we're starting to listen. But so far, we need all of these different groups to self-empower, to come together and build that synergy of people who share common purpose. And I think that's really the key.
Yes.
And if our purpose is not only the survival of the human race and all life on this planet, but the thriving, the caring about one another. And that is the through line that can make it happen, not just to care about my group and my well-being, but all of my sisters and brothers, human, beyond human, animal, plant, mineral, the earth, the air that we're celebrating today, the elements, all of it. We are part of a whole. And so the last thing that I want to say about this moving forward is my personal vision is expressed through the Garden of Light, the very teeny little nonprofit that I formed. The purpose of the Garden of Light, which is at gardenoflight.org, is to explore the emerging global spirituality. Because I truly believe that this is a spiritual impulse that's bringing us to care for one another on a larger scale, and that is truly what can save us in the long run.
Beautiful. What an exquisite ending. Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you, Diane, for being with us. That was really a lot of fun, and so deep gratitude and deep bows to both of you. This beautiful friendship, which has blessed the world. I found the quote from Teilhard, and I want to sort of finish on that. We'll play a Purpose Earth video and we'll finish. Teilhard de Chardin says, there is almost a sensual longing for communion with others that have a larger vision. The immense fulfillment of the friendships between those engaged in furthering the evolution of consciousness has a quality almost impossible to describe. And you two have done a beautiful job in describing that today. So thank you for being with us. I do want to play just a quick message from our beloved sponsors of Purpose Earth, through whom World Unity Week is made possible. They're doing incredible work all over the world. Nearly 30 grant recipients and getting on towards $300,000 given away just in the last 18 months or so. So we'll let's hear from them now.